officers did arrest 2 people in connection with Kamille McKinney's disappearance, and Patrick Starworth and Derek Arisha Brown still in custody. You were hoping to get murder warrants against them yesterday. Can you give us a status of that right now?
Well, there's still a lot of investigative work to be done. Please keep in mind that investigations are like putting together pieces of a puzzle. And so from day one, we've been gathering evidence, talking to everyone in the area, putting together a piece of everyone has different pieces of the puzzle so that we can draw a picture of what occurred, when it occurred, and exactly who's responsible.
Now, everyone charged with offenses has a right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, of course. Your investigators have to present evidence to prosecutors to help get a conviction on this case. How strong is this case, as you know right now?
You know, Art, in order for us to make an arrest, we have to feel very confident that we have the right people in custody. We're doing everything that we can to close every single loop. Our investigators have stayed on this case 24 hours a day. You know, you got to recognize this was personal. This is a little child. And so no one was willing to back off. No one was willing to take a break until we knew, and we're fairly confident, very confident, that we had the right people, we know what we're doing, and that we're conducting a systematic investigation.
And they were your initial persons of interest to the degree that you can. Can you tell us what were their intentions and what was a motive in this case?
Well, you know, motive is often hard to prove. However, you know, I can't go too much into this investigation. There's a lot that we just cannot get into right now. There's a lot that occurred. There's a lot of evidence, and you know, it's just a very unfortunate thing for the city.
It is indeed. You mentioned at one time during one of your briefings that you thought others were involved. Do you think there will be others that could be charged in this case?
What we were trying to do is to narrow down the role of various people, what they saw, where they were, and if they were involved in this investigation. So far, we've been able to arrest 2 people who we feel are totally responsible for this.
We're looking at that video of the Town Brown Village. How critical
Yes.
was that piece of video?
That was very critical to what we were trying to do. This is just not very far from the party at all. Just two little children who strayed slightly away, and it only takes a split second.
Is that man in that video, do you believe that's Patrick Starworth?
I'm not going to get into
Can't get into
details of what we have.
You did capture those 2 suspects. How can you characterize the work of your investigators? They put in a lot of work on this case.
You know, I honestly couldn't be more proud of the work ethic of the officers involved. There were people who came in who wanted to get out there because, as I mentioned, this was personal. It's a little child, and everyone wanted to do everything they could at that time to bring this baby back home.
All right, Patrick Smith, thank you, Chief, for now. In just a few minutes, Chief will be back. We'll talk more about how the community heals from this following the pain of losing, as you mentioned, this 3-year-old child in this manner. Let's head over. Thanks a lot. Only on CBS 42 this morning, we're talking with Birmingham Police Chief Patrick Smith. And Chief, earlier we talked about the investigation. Now I want to talk a little bit about the emotional part of this case. I know that a lot of people worked on this case, a lot of man hours. Can you give us a sense of how many investigators, how many man hours went into something like this?
Oh my God. You know, we placed so much into this. I can't give you a number right now, but we placed an entire team working on this 24 hours a day. And, you know, I can't just say that it was BPD. It was the FBI. There were volunteers from all over who came to assist us in searching. Crime Stoppers who jumped right in to help raise money for a reward, in addition to a number of agencies. Our DA, Danny Carr, was there at the police station every day of the week, checking in on the investigation, providing insight. I mean, there were a lot of people who helped along the way. I can't thank them enough, and you know, even our governor, who immediately came up with a $5,000 reward, and our Attorney General, who sent people down to check in to see if there was anything that could be done. There were so many people who helped on this investigation, and we're extremely grateful.
Yeah, we were watching some of those briefings, and in particular, you spoke about the pain of the parents. How did this impact law enforcement?
Well, the main thing is I don't want anyone, whether it's the community or those of us in law enforcement, to forget lessons learned. This was a very critical incident, a significant emotional incident for the community and for law enforcement. And so everyone wanted to lend a hand, and we're grateful for that.
Yeah. How does the city heal from this, Chief?
Well, one step at a time. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. I look at it like this, as chief, I sat and I watched and was a part of a tremendous investigation into a missing child. I watched this as this city transformed from the Magic City to the Cupcake City, because everyone in the city was impacted by this 3-year-old little child. And it's going to take us a little time to heal. But as I mentioned, I never want us to forget the lessons learned from this, and I never want us to forget what we lost in this little child.
Is there one thing that parents can do to keep their kids safe?
Oh, absolutely. The main thing that I mentioned even yesterday was, we've got to be that community. We've got to watch over our children, watch over our neighbors' children, and keep them close. We've got to recognize that this is the future, and we have to protect it.
Yeah, Chief, thanks so much. I know a very sensitive situation. We certainly appreciate you coming in.
Yes, it is. No problem. Thank you.
That's right. Let's get over to Storm Team.